Okay, so right off, I'm recording this the wrong way for YouTube, which is fine. You know, I don't care if it's perfect or not. It doesn't really matter. So I don't have a lot of videos. Matter of fact, I only have 2 on this channel right now, and obviously haven't put a lot of effort into it. And it's not the channel that, well, who cares? You know, it's really kind of how I feel about it. I'm just kind of putting some stuff out there. So I'm going to talk about what's on my mind as I drive in Atlanta traffic at rush hour, or almost rush hour. It's not quite rush hour yet. So Saturday was my birthday, and I turned 60. So I feel like I'm officially old now, but I'm not legally old yet. That's kind of how I feel about it. You know, it's really funny when you get to this point in your life, you know, getting carded feels good, even though they're just doing it because it's something they're supposed to do. But there's really more to it than that. So let's go to the beginning. I turned 60. I moved to Georgia 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years in December. And I started a business. So I was 52, and I quit my job, and I moved to a state where I only knew Ray, and you'll probably hear me talk about him more, but anyway, I've been with Ray for roughly 20 years. And I moved to Georgia, and I started a cleaning business because a lot of things happened. First of all, I missed him, and I wanted to be with him, so there was that. But I had also, 2 years prior to that, gotten laid off from United Healthcare, and I was there for 13 years. Like, I gotta tell you the truth, my resume, I could probably fit on one page, which I know you're supposed to do that, but I'm going all the way back to when I was 18 years old. I've had 6 jobs maybe my entire life. And, you know, so I stay. I'm not a person who hops from job to job. I stayed at my job. And I had planned on retiring from United Healthcare. That was the plan, right? But, you know, they came in and they laid me off, and they laid my whole team off. And I can talk more about that later. But basically, I was pretty mad about it, but the way that it was handled. And I had 2 other jobs after that. I worked for a company that was subcontracted by BGE, that's Baltimore Gas and Electric. And my mother died. My father had already passed away, and my mom died. And so I was living in Baltimore County and working in Baltimore, and my parents' property was in Frederick County. This is in Maryland. So that's like 2 hours away. And since they passed away, my sister and I had an agreement that we would move there together and turn the property into an event center. They had a 10-acre property. And so I quit the contract job at BGE, and I went to work for First Data, and I was there for about 8 months, I guess. And so while we were there, even though we had originally had an agreement that we were going to turn that property into an event center, things were not going in that direction. There was that, and I had been, you know, like I said, working on a contract with BGE, and it was in a call center, and I was also in a call center at First Data, and I just really wasn't happy. The position that I had at United Healthcare is a position that's usually usually hired from within. It was, you know, low-level management. And so I had to go back into entry-level position as a representative, customer service representative, in order to get a job. And I wasn't happy, and I just felt like, especially at First Data, I didn't feel like I had gotten the training that I was supposed to get, and that things were not being managed properly. For example, okay, I was given an iPad, which is a nice thing to get, right? There was me, and I think there was 10 of us. were given iPads, and the stipulation was that we'd go to work for 30 days without being late and without calling off, okay? So I was happy to get the iPad. I never had one before. It was my first one. But I felt like this was just the icing on the cake because the training was so bad and there were so many holes in it, and I had recently gotten a failed quality score because I gave out information that is protected under law and didn't know, and it's not the same as HIPAA when you go into finance. It's a little bit different. And so there was that, and I missed Ray, and things were not happening the way they were supposed to at the at the house. And when I told my boss on my exit interview, that one of the reasons I was unhappy was because my personal feeling is, if you're going to give somebody something like an iPad, that needs to go to somebody who's gone above and beyond, not somebody who just comes to work. I mean, that's the first part of doing your job, is just getting there, and they should be managing people. If they're having that big of an attendance problem, they need to manage people so that they know that the policy is a policy and they mean business. So that was my exit interview. So anyway, I left and I came down here 8 years ago. Now, here was another thing that was going through my mind. So I told you both my parents have passed away, but also all these things happened in a relatively short period of time, like within 5 years. I lost both my parents. My brother-in-law passed away, and my very, very best dear friend, who I had known since I was 9 years old, she passed away as well. And, I just started thinking about the lives that these people were living and what they did and what am I doing with my life, and, were they happy? Did they accomplish the things that they wanted to? And interestingly, of the 4 people, my father was terrified, my mother was terrified, my brother-in-law, he had cancer, so he had kind of a drawn-out illness, and he was just so sad because they had a young child, and he wasn't going to see him graduate from high school, and he felt like there was a lot of things that he was going to miss out on, which, that is the reality of the situation. Now, my friend who passed away, remember, I've known her since she was 9 years old. She had cancer when she was a child, and I went through that with her from a child's perspective, not as an adult, but as a child. But later on, as I became an adult and I learned some things, I knew more as an adult in my understanding. But there were some things about her life that was a little bit different, and her family asked me to do her eulogy, which that was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was also one of the most beautiful and precious things I've ever, I don't want to get too emotional now, it was also one of the most beautiful and precious things I've ever been asked to do, because it gave me an opportunity to honor her life and just let other people know how I felt about her and what she did with a different perspective, because I was her friend. So my job wasn't to judge her. My job was to love her. And in our families, even though we love somebody, a lot of times we put judgments on them, and we think that they should be doing things the way that we think they should be doing it. And a lot of people think that way. But her life was different from the rest of us. She had cancer as a child, and she beat it. And in her eulogy, I was able to point that out, that she was a miracle, and her perspective on life was different. And so what she had done before she got sick again and eventually passed away, she moved from Maryland to Oklahoma, and she was working a job, she had a regular job, but she was also singing, and she had this most beautiful voice. And part of the reason was because of some nodules, which was a result of her illness that she had. And she had some nodules on her vocal cords, and they gave it a distinctive sound. And so I would say she kind of sounded like Bonnie Raitt. That was Bonnie Raitt and Jody Messina. These are country singers. And she really did. She had a really beautiful voice. And, we sang a lot, her and I, growing up. She played guitar. One of the times when she was in the hospital and she was really sick, somebody had given her a guitar, so she learned how to play guitar. And she wasn't a particularly great guitar player, but she definitely could play, and she, we sang a lot of songs, and that was just part of the things that we did growing up. But when she moved to Oklahoma, she had a couple different bands, and even though she never got famous and they were just mostly singing cover songs, she was singing in venues with people like Willie Nelson and Vince Gill, people like that. And she had sent me pictures of her with these people, at some of the, I don't know what it was, a festival or something, but she didn't do what the rest of us had done. She wasn't afraid to go and find her dream, but she didn't think of it that way. For her it was just something normal. Like, she just did it. It was normal for her, even though the rest of us didn't understand why she just picked up her stuff and moved halfway across the country. But the world is smaller now too. That's the other thing. Like, we've got phones. You don't have to pay for long distance phone calls anymore. We can Skype or whatever, do video calls, and you can really keep in touch with people so much easier now than you used to be able to. But there's still that distance. You can't hug long distance, but you can definitely tell somebody that you love them much easier from a distance than we used to be able to do. So she did that, and she did get sick, and she passed away in Oklahoma, and her remains were sent back to Maryland, and I was asked to do her eulogy. All these things, all these people that passed away, and I started thinking about my own life. And Ray had come down here for the same reason. He's a musician, and he was with a band. He wanted to play, and that's what he likes to do. So me, I like business. That's what I do. I like to grow things. I like to create things, and I like to grow businesses, and I like to serve people. That's the other thing that I do, is I'm a servant. And so my sister had made a comment to me as I'm struggling with these different things in my head, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to come down here or not. And she had made a comment that nobody loved her the way Doug loved her. And that's how it is with Ray. Nobody's loved me the way he loves me. And I had let him come down here without me because I had my own little dream that I thought I was going to do with my sister, and it wasn't working out. And he was coming down here to be with the band, some people that he knew, and that wasn't working out for him. And just things weren't going right. He missed me, and I missed him. And I mean, we didn't split up on bad terms. We just split up because we thought we were going to go our separate ways and do our own kind of little dream, right? And it just wasn't working out. So I called him up, and I said, look, I'm coming down. I'm going to start a business. Completely threw him off. He didn't expect me to start the business. And I did. I came down here. I started a cleaning business. It had grown pretty big for a while there. Not huge, but big for me. It was I was completely full at capacity, and there were times when I had to bring people on to help me because there was too much work for me to do by myself. Okay, so that's the beginning of how it went. Well, then we got into a car accident. It was pretty bad, actually, and so we had some injuries. And this happened right before COVID. We had some injuries, And one of the injuries that I had gotten, the doctor told me that I would have to be off work because I was cleaning houses. That was the business that I started, or I'm still cleaning, okay? I still have my cleaning business. But anyway, he told me I had to be off work if I had this surgery for 4 to 6 months. And Ray's injuries were worse than me, and Ray's also sick. He's a diabetic, and he's had some more serious health problems than I have. And so I was like, I can't do that. If I do that, we're not going to have a place to live. I can't go 4 to 6 months and not have an income. So I decided to continue working. Long story short, COVID prolonged everything as far as getting into court. And it took, I think, 4 years. Something that normally would have taken 2 years took 4 years. I don't know. It took forever. But we finally did manage to settle, and I got some money. I didn't get the whole amount because, out of that money of the settlement, the doctors had to be paid, and, there were other expenses that had to be paid. The lawyers had to be paid, and so on and so forth. So I still have it. I got the money about 5 months ago, and I put it in the bank. Okay, it's just sitting in the bank. I'm getting some interest on it. I haven't spent any of it, and that's where it's sitting. So meanwhile, I'm working with injuries. I'm getting older, and this cleaning business is taking a toll on my body. And I'm not even trying to grow my business. I haven't advertised for this business since before COVID, and I've been able to maintain. I keep my, a lot of the clients that I've had all along, and I do get new clients. I get referrals, and so I've been able to maintain with the business, but I'm not growing it. And meanwhile, I have an online business where I sell clothing, and I sell collectible stuff, really whatever I think I can make money on. So I have that business as well. And that is the business that I think I'm going to carry on with into my retirement. So here I am, I'm home now, contemplating the next stage of my life. Like, what am I going to do from going from here on out? And retirement's not that far away, but I know that for a lot of reasons, the money that I'll get from Social Security is not going to be enough to live on. So I'm going to use the online business to supplement that, and I will eventually just close the cleaning business. But here I am now, I'm 60, and so every day the end of my life gets a little closer and a little bit closer, and I still don't feel like I'm completely finished, which is fine. I can keep doing what I wanted to do. And one of those things is, you don't know what's going to happen, but like I said, Ray's got bigger health problems than I have. So I would guess, I'm just guessing because we don't know, you never know, that he's probably not going to live as long as I will. I kind of hope that, to be honest with you. Not that I want him to die, but I think if somebody's got to go first, I would hope that he would go before me, because I think that he would handle it not as well as I would. I'll just put it that way. So that's where my thoughts are at this point. My oldest daughter, I'll tell you more about what my plan is if as I get even older. But she's coming to visit me next week, and I can't wait. Her and her family are coming to visit me, and it'll be the first time that she's come here since I've moved here. I've gone to visit her a couple times, but she has not been down here to visit me. So we're gonna visit, and it'll be nice. She'll be able to see where I live, how I live, and how I have the other business running. And it'll be a nice visit. I know it will. I'm just going to leave it at that. So this is why I moved here and why I started my business. But I have other things I want to talk to you about. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And I will start posting a little bit more frequently on this channel. You're welcome to come back and listen to my babbling and watch me progress, because I have some other things that I have done, I've already started doing, and I'll share that with you, and some things that I plan to do, because I have plans, and how I'm dealing with things, and so on and so forth. And you know, I don't know when. You know, I don't know. It might be another 2 years. I don't know, but that's what's going on. So, if you've listened this far, I really, really appreciate it. It's probably boring. It's okay. I'm gonna go in the house and make macaroni and cheese, seafood kind. Okay.